Yes. Welcome back to another edition of Go Long Live. I'm your host, Barry Long the second, not the first, not the third. I am the second. We are live on CoachellaValley.com, live on today's California.com, live on today's Canada.com. We are live all over the Twitterverse, all over the metaverse, all over the universe. Please comment if you have any comments based off what we're going to talk about today. We are the CoachellaValley.com's national interactive sports show that discusses today's top stories and top events in sports. And without any further ado, let me bring in my main man, Rudy Ramon Reyes. He is the co-host with the most. Rudy, how you doing, boss?
Yeah, man. You know what? I'm doing good, but I don't have a black eye.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I know that there's one guy who's a black guy who's feeling the pinch right about now, and that's Brian Flores. He's really hating life right about now with breaking news, filing a class action lawsuit against the NFL, against the Broncos, and a couple of other teams in regards to what he considers to be racist interview tactics by three teams in the NFL, which seems to be probably more of an issue in the grander scheme of things, and we don't even know how systemic it actually is in the NFL. The Rooney Rule was put in place for this purpose, but we're going to talk about that and a lot more as a part of this lawsuit. Breaking news, again, going back to Brian Flores with a class action lawsuit against the NFL, and of course, it was a quick response by the NFL in regards to that.
Yeah. So he is suing the NFL for racial discrimination and unfair hiring practices. He's also suing the Denver Broncos, the Miami Dolphins, who he used to coach, and he's also suing the New York Giants. So we'll talk about that here shortly. But before we get into that, we found out that officially Tom Brady has retired from the NFL. Now, we discussed this last week when the report from Jeff Darlington and Adam Schefter came out, and Tom Brady quickly retracted that story and came out and said that, you know what, I have not officially said that I'm retired. His father, Ed Brady, he said the same thing basically. But today it finally came out that Tom Brady did not want to overshadow this weekend's AFC Championship game and NFC Championship game. So he decided to release the news earlier today, and we found out that Tom Brady has officially retired. Your thoughts on that, Rudy?
You know, I think it's interesting timing. The writing was really on the wall. We talked about that before. Tom Brady is the best to have done it. There's nobody else that has 7 rings, nobody else that has multiple MVP awards, no one that has thrown for the amount of passing yards at the age of 44. You know, there's a lot of accolades we could actually give Tom Brady. But are we really looking at this through a different microscope? Are we looking at Tom Brady as a consummate professional, or does cheating play a role in regards to what his legacy actually looks like, with asterisks belonging to Flakegate and Spygate in correlation with that? Of course, they're all called gates. I don't know why you would call anything a gate, because clearly the information had been gated at least to a certain point, and then all of a sudden it became public knowledge, and now not so much of a gate. So will Tom Brady be known more for the ball deflation and his comfort level in regards to how he held on to the ball and his comfort level of throwing the ball at the pressure that he likes the football set at? That's a big question. It's a big issue. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I think that he will be remembered just strictly for being the GOAT. Now, I understand that there are some asterisks that could be applied to some of his accolades. You've got Deflategate. You've got the whole situation with the Spygate. You've also got other things like, people that consider the tuck rule to not be fair. They felt like that was acquiesced for Tom Brady. So a lot of people, I feel like those people are just haters. At the end of the day, when we sit back and we think about his legacy, I mean, he's been to 10 Super Bowls. There's not a lot of people that have been to 10 championships in any sport. I mean, with the exception of like Bill Russell, LeBron James. But to win 7 out of 10 is just freaking incredible. And once he got up to 5, the 5th championship, I was like, man, this guy is the greatest of all time. Like, you can no longer put Joe Montana, Terry Bradshaw, these guys that have won multiple rings in the same category with him. And honestly, as great as Patrick Mahomes is, and as well set up he looks like to be for the future and having success and going back to many AFC championship games, we know that the NFL stands for not for long. And at the end of the day, you get to one championship and you have a juggernaut of a team. You look up and you're like, man, we lost, but we'll be back. And you have, how many NFL players have said that same thing walking off the field after a Super Bowl loss who never made it back. So at the end of the day, it's no foregone conclusion that Patrick Mahomes is going to be going to 10 championships. I think that this is an anomaly. And I believe that Tom Brady should be remembered for what he brought to the sport. And not only that, but his professionalism. He's always saying the right things. Never got caught with his pants down like Robert Kraft. He's just
Literally.
he's just a consummate professional and just a great leader. And I think that that's how he should be remembered. What are your thoughts, Rudy?
He should be remembered for a lot of the things that he has done, accomplished, very well received by multiple people around the NFL. A lot of former players, coworkers, constituents have nothing but great things to say about Tom Brady. And of course, you always have to look at the other side of that coin. Yeah, the accolades are there. He had done, things that no quarterback could probably ever have thought of doing at the age of 44. And certainly, he goes out with a serious bang. And a lot of things can be discussed in regards to, what those asterisks look like. As you so well pointed out, that those asterisks could be the difference between becoming a first ballot Hall of Famer and maybe not. And maybe it has absolutely nothing to do with it. And they're going to continue pulling the favoritism strings in regards to what he has accomplished versus what he hasn't, minus all the controversy in correlation with that. So you can't look at all the good without looking at the bad. You just can't. And to be objective and say, no, seriously, you can't look at all the good stuff and all of a sudden, you dismiss all the bad things that were done, the Spygate, the Deflategate, the ball inflation, the fact that he had approached two of the ball handlers in the New England organization, say, you know what, I'll give you a little bit for Santa Claus if you deflate these balls the way that you know that I like them. Okay.
Now let me ask you this.
Let me ask you this. That's what's rumored to happen.
Okay, so you brought up the Hall of Fame. Now you've got guys like Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, who will never be in the Hall of Fame because of their cheating allegations and steroids. Now, do you think that Tom Brady's cheating is comparable to that which Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, the steroid era? Do you think that people will actually keep him out of the Hall of Fame? I mean, he won't be shut out of the Hall of Fame for 10 years. But do you think that his first ballot Hall of Fame is in jeopardy because of the cheating?
No, and again, that goes back to the weighing of the scales. What is good for him and what seems to be working for him is the fact that he did win all those championships. Yeah, some of them were obviously very questionable. Steeler fans will always remember the no catch by Jesse James. Did he get in? Did he not get in? They obviously had changed the rule the year thereafter. You mentioned that actual tuck rule. Charles Woodson's not happy about that, even this day, I'm sure. But a lot of things considered in regards to that. But again, you have to be objective. He's not going to be kept out after 10 years of not being in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. What it does do is that it almost works in parallel and in concert with Ben Roethlisberger getting in and what his chances getting into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 10 years as well. Does Tom Brady's lack of judgment or his errors or issues that he had faced while in New England affect Ben Roethlisberger's positioning? Don't forget, Ben Roethlisberger accused of rape. One was settled out of court. These guys were both great on the football field, but it's not on the football field where they necessarily had the issues. It's off the football field. So if you're going to look at the glass, you better look at it half full and not half empty when it comes to both of these quarterbacks.
Absolutely. We are live on CoachellaValley.com. We are live on today'scalifornia.com and today'scanada.com. Please comment like Maria Lascuna did. She said, hello, guys. We appreciate for her tuning in. And Bill Senso, what's going on, Bill? How you doing? He says, hello, guys. Bill uses Facebook, and he's poked me a couple times. Shout out to Bill. He poked you too, did he?
Yeah, thanks, Bill.
We love Bill.
I can feel it's right here. The whole poking is right
we
there.
Love Bill. We love Bill. And we're so excited for Coachella Valley Firebirds hockey that's coming to the Valley. We'll talk about that later on in the next couple of weeks. We got some exciting things that we'll be talking about there. But now let me ask you this, okay? So Tom Brady is now officially retired. And the team is still set up for success. I know you've got Mike Evans. You've got Gronkowski, who's probably going to retire. You got Godwin, who'll come back. I don't believe he'll be ready exactly for the beginning of the year, but he may be. Shout out to Dr. Andrews. But at the end of the day, right now, Tom Brady or Tampa Bay needs to decide whether or not they're going to go out and get a quarterback in the draft, whether or not they're going to dip into free agency. What do you think is the next best movement for them at quarterback? Because there's some quarterbacks that are up for trade. We've heard Jimmy Garoppolo is officially going to be up on the trading block. It won't take much to get him, second-round draft pick. You've got Deshaun Watson out there who, if he clears all his legal allegations, he might be up. You've got Aaron Rodgers, Aaron freaking Rodgers. I think that would be a great opportunity for him and as well as Tampa Bay to continue their little run because they have a good defense. They've got some great weapons. And even if Gronkowski retires, you still got OJ Brate and you still got Cameron Brate and OJ. So you've got some pretty good tight ends. But I feel like Aaron Rodgers, for him to get that monkey off his back and to win a Super Bowl ring, I feel like going to Tampa Bay would be ideal for him. What do you think?
I think Aaron Rodgers would be the heir apparent when you're talking about teams, that are now bidding for quarterbacks, options for quarterbacks. This is a Bruce Arians led team that was a former, Tom Brady's led team. Of course, Bruce Arians has this mantra of no risk it, no biscuit. So,
yes.
So for him, is he going to go after the biscuit in Aaron Rodgers? Because if he does, he follows the same mantra. If he doesn't, the bigger question is who's the next man up? Is it Jimmy Garoppolo, who's shown that he can complete passes and has mental lapses? Does he go after Derek Carr, who's also somewhat of a pure pocket passer, to where he throws those unnecessary balls into double coverage and causes interceptions to occur after deflection? Or do you go after Aaron Rodgers, who is 0-4 in the playoffs at Lambeau Field? So again, a lot of questions surrounding this quarterback position. But to be quite honest with you, if the Buccaneers want to make a splash move, they will acquire one of these three said quarterbacks. Bruce Arians will work with either one of them. You mentioned Deshaun Watson. I don't think anybody wants Deshaun Watson. and in all fairness, Deshaun Watson, one heck of a football player. There's
top
no
five.
doubt about it.
At the peak of his popularity,
top five. No
top
doubt.
five, right?
Absolutely. The problem is he's top, negative 1,000 because of all his legal issues that that stems from his disambiguation of what it's like to just get a massage, pay the money, and get on with the rest of your night without incident or without furthering any issues, right?
Even if he's not guilty, he's still a creep.
Even if he's not guilty, but you know what they say?
40 masseuses?
Yeah, 40, 45. I mean, heck, I don't even have that many pairs of hats, 45.
I do.
I'm close. I'm probably like 42 or something like that. But
okay.
the difference is that Deshaun Watson needs to not wear any of those hats, own up to whatever he needs to own up with and own up to in regards to these allegations, settle part of them out, if not all of them out, to whatever extent, get on with his career because he does have a career ahead of him in the NFL. Bigger question is where. I still don't think Bruce Arians takes a chance on a guy like Deshaun Watson. They're probably going to build through the draft and go into free agency and acquire a guy. No, I'm not talking about Fitzpatrick, who's the only quarterback left over after Tom Brady was picked, Ben Roethlisberger was picked, and a handful of other QBs. But I think that their best bet in Tampa Bay is to build through the draft and then go in free agency and spend some serious cash on a guy like, maybe Aaron Rodgers. We'll see.
Well, and I think that would be a great move. But you mentioned Deshaun Watson. Now, Deshaun Watson, we've seen in the NFL that your talent is going to, and your production on the field will outweigh any allegations or anything swirling around you, because we've seen guys that have done a lot of stuff. Even Tyreek Hill, if you want to get serious, Kareem Hunt, Joe Mixon, guys that have done stuff in the past, sexual allegations or domestic violence, whatever. But because they're so talented, they're allowed to play again. Antonio Brown. So Deshaun Watson, you said he wears many hats. He doesn't need to wear that many hats. He better put on a Jimmy hat. but
that's kind of what I was alluding to. A different kind of hat is probably his saving grace.
We are live on CoachellaValley.com. but yeah, man. So I think that this is one name that I want to throw out to you for Tampa Bay, and I know that this is pretty far fetched, but just hear me out. Now, Jameis Winston was there in Tampa Bay for a long time, played under Bruce Arians with all those same weapons, and he got a year to go away, went to New Orleans, and he kind of learned under the tutelage of Drew Brees and kind of saw what it was like to handle the football and be careful with the football, not fumble and not throw crazy interceptions. And he minimalized his mistakes while he was in New Orleans. Now, he comes back from that ACL injury. Do you think it's possible that Tampa Bay would say, hey, Jameis, come back, and let's run it back?
No. And here's why. They have Taysom Hill. They're going to have Jameis Winston.
Ian Book.
Still have not solidified the quarterback position in New Orleans. Now they don't have Sean Payton. So Payton, huge monster key to that. Decided to retire the same year that Tom Brady decided to retire, same year that Ben Roethlisberger decided to retire,
The end of an
and
era.
a couple other players. So this is done. To be quite honest with you, I don't see Bruce Arians taking any risk it on the Jameis Winston biscuit train with no gravy, because there's so gravy involved in this process.
No gravy,
I
just crab
know
legs.
no gravy at all. And to be honest with you, if you want to, again, building in the draft, building from the draft, they're going to have to start over again with a guy. And we're, we can throw the other quarterbacks in that conversation as well. We talk about Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson. I think Deshaun Watson would be an absolute fantastic piece to that quarterback puzzle going on in New Orleans to make that determination. Only for the standpoint of they need stabilization at that exact position. Bigger question is who's going to be the head coach of the New Orleans Saints, and that is an ongoing search. Probably one of the last teams that will end up picking a head coach, as well as Jacksonville and a couple of other teams right now that have yet to have picked a head coach outside of the New York Football Giants and outside of a few other teams. So we'll see. We'll definitely see what happens.
And speaking of head coaching searches, we've had a bombshell story dropping out of the NFL today. And it kind of is, correlated to the Patriots and the fact that he spent so many time with the Patriots. Brian Flores, he spent from 2014 to 2018, he spent, as an assistant and various other roles with the New England Patriots. But now we know that he just got fired from the Miami Dolphins. And it has been reported that Brian Flores, the former coach, is suing the NFL, the Broncos, the Giants, and the Dolphins for racial discrimination and unfair hiring practices. Now, there are some receipts that he has come out with saying that, he got an interview with the New York Giants, and 3 days prior to his interview, after he had already scheduled it, he got a text message from Bill Belichick, his former employer, his former boss, saying that, hey, man, congratulations, you landed on your feet, you got a job. And Brian Flores is like, what are you talking about? Back, sending back the text message. And then Bill Belichick responds, aren't you the coach of the New York Giants? And then quickly realizes that he texted the wrong Brian. Okay. He meant to text Brian Daboll instead of Brian Flores. And Brian Flores responded, are you sure you're talking about me? And then Bill Belichick, in a rare screenshot, he curses and says that he effed up, and he meant the other Brian, and he apologized. So Brian Flores is basically, saying that he's insinuating that the Giants just used him as, Rooney Rule bait, basically, just so they could get a minority interview out of the way, and that they had already made up their mind. And regardless of whether or not he was a better fit for that team, because in my opinion, the Giants needed an offensive kind of guru, somebody like Brian Daboll who understands, the offensive scheme side of things, and rather than going for a defensive-minded head coach. So I feel like Brian Daboll was very, very qualified for this position. And the Giants came out and vehemently denied those allegations. He also accused the Broncos of giving him a sham Rooney Rule interview years ago in 2019. And then the Dolphins, the owner, Stephen Ross, he says that, in his first year, Mr. Ross came out and asked him if he would lose every game, and per game that he lost, he would get $100,000, just so that they could secure that number 1 overall draft pick. Now, we've seen all these teams and the NFL come out and deny these allegations. Before I give my opinion on it, Rudy, what do you think about these allegations from Brian Flores, and will he ever coach again in the NFL? Because these are serious allegations. And
these are serious. Yeah, these are beyond serious. This is near a systemic issue that has been facing the NFL, rearing its ugly head at the time when you don't want that to happen. And the NFL vehemently denied it and said, we will defend against these claims which are without merit. Now, mind you, there hasn't been an investigation yet. How does the NFL know that these claims are without merit? How do you know that? How can you guess that? How can you second guess that? How can you make that statement? That's the bigger question at hand. If the NFL hasn't done any investigative footwork into this and have dove into this situation, how do they know it has no merit? Do they base it on a standalone feature that all of these teams aforementioned, Giants, Broncos, and Dolphins,
Mm-hmm.
have no issues whatsoever. Their organizations are squeaky clean.
Yeah.
We know that's not the case. We know that. There's
Racism
only
exists
one
in
head
every
coach in the
aspect
NFL,
of
and
life.
that's Mike Tomlin.
Yeah.
How
There's only
can
one
you?
coach.
There's only one black coach in the NFL. That's Mike Tomlin, head coach of my Pittsburgh Steelers,
Who are the originators
continues.
of the Rooney Rule, by the way.
Exactly. They created it. Dan Rooney created this back in the day to make sure that African Americans within the football community have the ability to be interviewed based on their own merit, based on their skill set, based on their winning record. Don't forget Brian Flores, winner of 7 in a row. 7 in a row in Miami.
Now,
He
it's
basically
fair.
told the owners, you know what? I'm not going to abide by your $100,000 rule.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on and I'm going to win 7. And if I win 7, I want my job. I want to be head coach of the Miami Dolphins.
That allegation against the Dolphins owner is so serious because you're talking about integrity right here. Now, I understand that there are teams that in professional sports that tank in order to get that number 1 overall draft pick, like the Philadelphia 76ers, trust the process. But the NFL is not for long. And if you have one bad season, we saw with the Arizona Cardinals and Steve Wilkes, he was one and done. And there have been other coaches that have been one and done. And this is like a very serious allegation because it comes to question your integrity as a football coach and just in general, your integrity as a man. And the fact that he has screenshots and he has proof, receipts, as this young generation calls them, it's very serious. And honestly, the Bill Belichick screenshot text message was one that really shocked me because because he screenshotted it, and he basically, ever since that day, he has made it up in his mind that he was going to sue the NFL. And we've seen people that sue the NFL. You're not going to be in the NFL again. Colin Kaepernick, amongst other people. Example. So my thinking is Brian Flores is so committed to this cause that he is willing to risk his career future in the NFL just to make a point and just to change the systemic racism that is happening right now. And keep in mind, this is a league that is what, 65% African-American, 65% Black. So, but how many Black owners are there? How many Black head coaches are there? And there have been a surge of Black GMs that have been hired during this last couple of weeks. Ryan Poles, Kwasi, Adolfo Mensah in Minnesota. So we've seen GMs get opportunities, but head coaches, we haven't seen so many get that many opportunities. Eric Bieniemy is one. And you feel like Brian Flores is not only stepping up for himself and trying to defend himself, but he's also trying to change the way that the NFL hires people moving forward. Your thoughts on that?
I look at this situation as it's just going to get that much worse. And to be quite honest with you, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And to dive further into this is an ongoing problem. This isn't anything new. This isn't something that you're going to automatically wake up and yawn and say, well, I guess it's over now. We can all move on and move forward. No, that's not the case. That's not really what's going on here. What's going on here is an ongoing slap in the face to those African-American coaches who have not only deserved an opportunity to use the Rooney Rule, not for their ultimate benefit, but because it adds to their already used experience, their knowledge, their faith in the process. They're the one trusting the process, preaching to follow the process, to trust the process. Well, what process is that? If their process is not allowing them to get at that next level because they've followed the process, then what are they preaching to these guys? What are they telling them?
That's a great point.
Following an extremely horrible process, horrific process, an embarrassing, self-loathing, groveling process? Are you kidding me? This is ridiculous.
Now, there are a lot of NFL fans that feel like the Rooney Rule is not fair because it's kind of like the affirmative action rule. And this is a rule that has been around for a long time. And some companies, they have a practice that they hire African Americans or minority candidates because they need to fill quota. And regardless if there is a white, counterpart that is more qualified, then a lot of times the black person will get the job. Or in college, there's an affirmative action rule there, and there's a lot of people that are against it because your qualification should be based solely on your merit. But there are a lot of systemic racist issues in different companies and different career fields where I feel like it is necessary just to keep the playing field level. And I also feel that if there is a environment where it's all minorities, then affirmative action should be enacted in it, for white people as well. So I feel like just to keep it fair, everybody should have an opportunity, but we should also keep in mind that the NFL is based, solely, when it was originated, there were very few black players. And when black players were coming up, as quarterbacks, a lot of them got guided or got mentored and said, hey, man, maybe you should be a wide receiver. So, or maybe you should be a running back. And there's a lot of guys, but it also works that way with white running backs. There's white running backs that are discriminated against. Christian McCaffrey, they say things like, oh, he's deceptively fast, or, oh, he's sneaky athletic. And that, in my opinion, is just a slight way of saying he's a white boy that can run. And at the end of the day, football is one of the most integrated sports, playership wise, that we have. And when you play sports, you grew up playing sports, you grew up loving sports. Racism doesn't exist when you're out there on the playing field. If you're on the field, your brothers are your brothers. And I feel like a lot of people need to go back and watch the movie Remember the Titans.
Yeah, no, they're going to have to go back and look at this. And you want to talk about run it back and remember where this all came from. Remember where it all started. Remember the sense of humility that, and don't get me started. There are hardly any Hispanics in the NFL either, if you really want to go there. So
players and coaches. Ron Rivera being the only one.
The last one is there's so many. There's
See
so
how
many
long it's taken
because there's only one. There's Ron Rivera. He's the only Hispanic coach in the NFL right now. Okay,
and to be fair, I thought Brian Flores was like Dominican, like how Aroldis Chapman, because a lot of Dominicans are black skinned, but they have Hispanic last names. I thought Brian Flores was Dominican or something, but I mean, regardless of his ethnicity, his racial color is black, and this is a serious thing. But there are no Hispanics.
There should be no issues whatsoever with the color of somebody's skin that determines whether or not they are prepared, knowledgeable, informed, objective to be able to run a professional football franchise, an NBA franchise. Okay, okay. Period. That's it. They're qualified. They're qualified from the top to the middle to the bottom.
Now, this is what Brian Flores came out and said, okay? He said that God has gifted me with a special talent to coach the game of football, but the need for change is bigger than my personal goals. He said, in making the decision to file the class action complaint today, I understand that I may be risking coaching the game that I love and that has done so much for me and my family and me, should be my family and I. But he says, my sincere hope is that by standing up against the systemic racism in the NFL, others will join me to ensure the positive change is made for generations to come. Now, is this an honorable thing or is this a stupid thing in your opinion? Because I mean, he could end up coaching in college or for the USFL or the CFL, but it's not the NFL.
He is going to coach somewhere. There's no doubt about it. Somebody in any one of those organizations are going to recognize that he is a man of his word. He is a man of honor. He is a man who has done nothing but going about things the right way for the right reasons, to help other people understand that he is not one of those guys who's going to lay down and be ran over at 100 miles an hour and get up and rinse himself off just to go back and be thrown under the bus all over again. His career in the NFL is done. As far as being a head coach is concerned. I don't see any team taking a chance on him. And you know why? Because of ownership.
Could he be a coordinator though? Could he be a coordinator?
No.
The right head coach. Like let's say Todd Bowles leaves Tampa Bay because he's been rumored to be a head coaching candidate as well. Bruce Arians has hired a lot. He hired 2 black coordinators that needed an opportunity. Byron Leftwich really hadn't had an opportunity to be a coordinator yet. Todd Bowles had previously been a coordinator, but Bruce Arians got a lot of respect for hiring minorities. Do you think that if Brian Flores is never hired by a franchise to be the head coach, do you think that he could end up being the defensive coordinator, let's say for Tampa Bay under Bruce Arians?
There is a slim chance. It depends on how much Bruce Arians wants to go to bat for
If
Brian
it's going to be
Flores.
anybody, it'll
That's
be
a
the dude
bigger
that rocks the
question.
Kango hats like Samuel L. Jackson. That's a brother.
with a big fat cigar to boot.
Yeah.
Now, don't forget, Bruce Arians believes in equality. He's hired
As we all do. As we all do. But yeah,
women
but
as well
women,
as a part
yes.
of that Tampa Bay Buccaneers coaching staff. And there are a lot of them. And matter of fact, these are becoming a lot more common. These positions opening for women who deserve the opportunity, as well as Major League Baseball. We've seen that happen in the offseason as well. Major League Baseball obviously no closer to an ending of the strike than they were 6 months ago, 8 months
we'll talk
ago,
about that later
9
this
months
week.
ago. But to be quite fair, I think he may get a very slim opportunity to be a coordinator under Bruce Arians. But again, it's really about Bruce Arians. But as I stated, ownership is part of the problem. You don't have African-American ownership, you will not have African-American head coaches. There are very few selections to that rule. Now, the standard is the standard when it comes to the creators of the Rooney Rule with the Steelers and Dan Rooney hiring coach Mike Tomlin, who's had yet to have a losing season for the Steelers. But more importantly, look at Eric Bieniemy. Still no opportunity, still no phone calls from any NFL team. And if he has, they've been very few,
And he's
if at
had
all.
lots of
Why
interviews.
is it? But still no hire. You can have all the interviews you want. They are using this clickbait Rooney Rule. They use it on Brian Flores. They're using it on Eric Bieniemy, and they're going to use it on any other African-American coach who wants to climb up in the ranks to either be a head coach or switching off from being offensive coordinator to being a head coach in the NFL.
Now, the thing about the class action suit is that other people can also jump aboard. So we've seen guys like Deuce Staley, former player, long time running back in the league. He has been an assistant coach in different places, but the Eagles, I remember before Doug Peterson brought him in, or maybe after Doug Peterson got fired, brought him in as the Rooney Rule, exception to the rule, and just got him in and out. Do you think that we could see other guys that have been maybe or have thought that they have been discriminated against joining in on this class action lawsuit? I mean, this could be serious because there have been many allegations about racism towards, NFL owners. And the problem with ownership, in my opinion, is that we've got guys that will go out and purchase or become, partial owners of NBA franchises, Major League Baseball franchises. NFL franchises they bring in significantly more money than NBA, but not Major League Baseball. And we all know Major League Baseball is more of a sport that is less integrated than the NFL. But seriously, we need to see guys like Magic Johnson, guys that have the capital and that have the personality and that have the business mind to jump aboard and become at least partial owners so that we can get this thing a little bit more fair and equal. What are your opinions on that?
Well, you're going to have to build up the steam, right? It's going to be the little engine that could when you're fighting the NFL, when you're fighting a larger conglomerate such as the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NBA. Of course, the NBA is a lot more amicable when it comes to following rules and protocols and listening to its coaches, listening to ownership. There's a lot of diversity in the NBA. Obviously, the Major League Baseball has somewhat of a diverse angle as well, but the NFL is going to have an uphill battle. To your point, you're going to have, I'd say, anywhere between 5 to 7 big names be a part of this class action lawsuit. I agree. And you're going to have a lot more powerhouses. You may even have some Hispanics as a part of this as well. So, I didn't get a fair shake. Could there be some players? Could there be coaches? Could there be offensive coordinators that were shut down from being head coaches? This is far from over. I don't care if the organization in the NFL states that this is done without merit. I want to see what the merit looks like when it's standing up at the end of the day. And that merit is not going to be in their favor. It's going to be on the favor of other people as a part of this class action lawsuit.
And either way, however it turns out, we've got to tip our hats to Brian Flores for being courageous enough to go out and try to fight systemic racism or systemic injustice within any aspect of sports. But it's tough to be a martyr because we saw Colin Kaepernick, try to step out and take the knee, and whether or not you believe that it's disrespectful to the military or to the flag. He basically took that risk of saying, I know I'm never going to play in the NFL again. And whether or not, you want to say that it was a sham tryout that he had for the NFL teams a few years back, he basically took this position knowing that it was over in this aspect of his career. And Brian Flores is doing the same thing. And it takes a lot of cojones, as they say, to step out on faith and do something like this. But the people that come behind him will be so appreciative if this does turn out the way that he expects it to.
Well, hopefully so. For the sake of everybody involved, anybody who's ever been told no, anybody who has put in their time, who has proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that they belong in that respective position, should certainly be looked at, advocated for, and in turn, hopefully this goes the direction of right versus direction of wrong.
Yeah, and Bill Senso says, I agree 100% with Rudy. Shout out to Bill Senso. We appreciate the feedback on the show. Now, real quick, we got the meme of the day. Before we get into the meme of the day, we want to also let you guys know again that yes, we will be out at Super Bowl Radio Row Media Week all entire week. Rudy will be at the game. I'll be there earlier on in the week, and then he'll join me. We'll have interviews with celebrities, former players, current players. It's going to be a lot of fun. I just ran into somebody who's been there before. Last year, and they are so excited for Rudy and I. But yes, we will be out there. We'll be handling business, and let's do the meme of the day real quick because because I told you yesterday that I had to check my temperature, and before we put the meme of the day, let me check my temperature one more time. All right, 97.1. Can y'all see that? I thought I had a fever. I just got Burrow fever. But this is the meme of the day. The Rams. Look at all the stuff that the Rams have going for them. Okay. The offense, defense, special teams, O-line, defensive line, receiving core, secondary, coaching, experience, star power, home field. These are all their advantages. And the Bengals have one advantage, and that's Joe freaking Burrow. And I love this kid. He's just got so much moxie. And there's certain stuff that he does that if other people did it, like if Tom Brady came out with the sunglasses, Aaron Rodgers comes out with sunglasses, it's cool. But Joe Burrow just has this self-awareness and this disposition about himself that is just absolutely undeniably attractable. And I love the kid. How do you feel about Joe Burrow?
Joe Burrow, one of those guys, I just can't get over how cool he is under pressure. And I know that word's been used,
Joe Cool,
overused. Joe
they
cool,
call Joe Flacco Joe Cool
for Joe Namath.
Yeah, Joe Namath was cool with the fur, but they tried to
Montana.
call Joe Montana was cool, even though he's not pulling females like Jimmy Garoppolo or Tom Brady. But they tried to call Joe Flacco Joe Cool. And I'm a Ravens fan, diehard, lifelong. And I there's no way that Joe Flacco is cool in my book.
No. Joe Burrow just brings something different, something special, something dynamic, something about him as an individual just shows his reserve. And if anybody remembers watching the AFC Championship game, he was sitting on a cooler.
Sitting on a cooler.
Himself,
we were texting back and forth. Because he's so cool
by himself, because he was getting so hot he thought he'd cool himself off.
Yeah, he thought he'd cool himself.
To me, is Joe Cool. Yeah, under pressure, sure. And he certainly showed what that was about as McPherson kicked that game winner to send the Bengals to the Super Bowl.
And McPherson, let's also acknowledge McPherson is a rookie, and you know how much pressure it is on kickers when they have to make that game-winning kick.
Huge.
Oh yeah, and being a rookie is tough as any kicker in the league. No matter if you're Sebastian Janikowski with Deebo Samuel-sized legs, but McPherson, Zach Taylor, the coach, just the moxie of Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. This is a fun, incredible team to watch. And we are going to break down the Super Bowl more this week, and especially next week as we get closer and closer to the Super Bowl. Real quick, let them know where they can find you at, Rudy.
Yeah, you can go to @RudeDogReyes on Twitter. Go to therudedogshow.com where this show is placed. And, you can find me anywhere. LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. Go to therudedogshow.com on there. Throw me a follow. Always
just Google Rudy Reyes.
Football. No, if you Google Rudy Reyes, you're going to find this
military guy,
third military installment guy named Rudy Reyes. He's a fake. No, I'm just kidding. I don't even know. I don't even know the guy. I wish I knew the guy, but I don't know the guy.
He might be related to you, man. If you Google
Maybe.
If you
Maybe
Google
yes.
very long space like it's written right there, then all of a sudden I'm all over Google, man. So I don't know I don't know who did
You
it, but
just type in the Rude Dog Show, you'll
for
find me.
sure. For sure. And find me on Twitter at Radio Barry Long and underscore Barry Long _2 on IG. We will be back tomorrow. I'm sure there will be some more stuff that comes out regarding Brian Flores and his suing of the NFL and 3 NFL teams. We're going to break down some more different sports, basketball, talk a little baseball tomorrow. But stay focused, stay motivated, and stay inspired. And remember, you're capable of doing anything. So go out and do it. We're
Anything.
on for an hour starting tomorrow. We'll see you then.